The results of our WoodwardSports.com poll.
Got a poll?
More high Maz. 148 votes. 92%.
Ooh. Finally,
yes.
a majority poll that you said that you like.
92% more high Maz. 8%
That's
says
like-
no.
It's like George McGovern against, who did he lose to? Oh, yeah, Nixon.
Laura Bagley says Maz needs to do a shot next
What year
time.
was that? 70? What was
RJ
that,
Graham.
74?
Maz giggles are great. Have not
60,
seen anyone giggle like
60.
that in 20 years.
Giggle. I haven't even heard the word giggle in 20
Steven
years.
says, I
love
just
that.
cooked a frozen burrito. Maz, you want it?
I'm good. Thank you.
Yo, that's fire. A lot of love by the fans today. We appreciate you guys.
Shane D
man.
says, Ryan, no, I won't stop at Taco Bell for you, Maz.
Thank you,
So
Ryan.
great. Thank you, Ryan.
So, Mass, how do you enjoy the experience so
Hey,
far overall? You love
I've had a fun day,
it? Good.
especially just looking at my guys here.
So
my
what?
boys.
So when can we make this a once a month thing?
Sure.
Only with the crew though, right? Or you want to do once a week?
If we're at Dispo, I'll do it.
Fridays
How's that?
in the summer.
There we go.
Then we'll talk, okay?
He said if we're at Dispo,
I don't
he'll
want
do
to
it.
Right.
sign anything right now.
All right.
Nothing.
Hey, what a great experience.
You can throw it out anyway. You can't be forced to sign things under
Now,
duress.
What a
I've
great
gotta stand
experience.
up here in a second. I don't know. I don't.
So during the
know.
commercial break,
What?
and these guys can attest to this. We got Lucas over here.
Yep.
We got
IA,
JB.
JB, Parker,
we got Parker. We
Brad.
got intern Alex.
IA.
We got
See,
Brady.
even Maz knows.
IA. Maz just out of the blue looks at me and says, Ryan.
Is this when I went inside?
That's when you went inside. And
Why
was
did
like,
I even go inside?
Bro, what are you talking about?
I don't know.
Like, what are you even talking
It's
about?
like I was waving to you.
He was,
Ryan. This guy's sitting right
Thank
next to
you,
you.
Ryan.
Ryan.
he was showing love. But he was showing love though. He was
Yeah.
he's like, I made it through the show.
Yeah.
Maz,
Hey, Maz.
Maz did an edible. He's lasted 2 hours. He's hanging with the fellas. He's still in the chair.
Tom-
He's still
I
remember
might be
IA
here
when
through
you
the
forgot.
heavyweights. at
Tom
this rate.
Mazway, I'm proud of you, man.
Yeah.
Thank
I'm
you,
proud
Ryan.
of you today,
Thank
having
you,
a little
Ryan.
fun.
Thank you.
This is what taking a chance in life is all about, man. You took a controlled chance. You had your friends and family around
I was
you.
scared,
You
man.
took a chance you've
I
never
ain't
done
scared
before.
now, but I was scared.
That's what I appreciate you, brother.
I might be scared
Take a
again.
chance in life. Take a chance
And
sometimes.
Maz, is this something you will want to do again in the future?
Yeah, I feel like yeah.
Will you get in trouble when you go
Yeah,
home?
I
is
want
the
to do this
question.
I want to do this at the Lady Jane's store. Okay? I want all our lady friends to see this.
All right,
'Cause
now's
they
when
all
the
see
friends
me-
step in and say,
Hey, I'm stodgy.
All right.
Say I'm stodgy.
Okay, cut his mic.
I'm fun.
Got the mic.
now this is like the part. This is like the part in old school where the friends grab the mic cord and they pull it
100%.
out and say, "Take the microphone
That's what
off."
Patrick Mahomes did to
his
Kelsey
Now, Maz.
at the White House.
Maz, when I
That's
take
right.
you
Oh,
home today,
true.
are you going to get in trouble or am I going to get in
No.
trouble?
He's a grown man.
Kathy almost came here to watch this.
I'm a man.
Should we take a bag home for her?
Yeah.
Now you're talking
We
to
got
me.
bags, I think.
Could be something in there.
We do have bags.
Yeah, I'm getting this hat.
You
I
got
think.
the hat.
I think.
Maybe
I
fill up
keep
the
this
hat
hat?
like a bowl of soup.
Maybe.
Can I take the time real quick to say happy birthday to someone?
Please.
Please.
My sister,
Oh.
Miranda J, played a happy blah blah birthday
Happy
tomorrow.
birthday, sis.
But guess who else's birthday it is? Her fiance. They share the
How
same
about
exact birthday.
It's blah blah birthday for him too.
He's a year older.
Okay.
So
pretty
tomorrow,
cool.
June 24th, happy birthday Jay, happy birthday Cam, dinner tomorrow night.
I love that, man.
Look at
Dinner
that.
on you?
Hell no. See that motherfucker got a job.
Look, I don't want to ruin the show.
No, you can't. It's no way you can ruin this show.
You'll pick it back up, but there is an anniversary. I think it's 9 years that Michael Jackson passed.
Ooh,
And I remember where I was when it
that
happened.
was tough.
And I was sad, very sad. I'm still sad,
Who plays left field for the
I
Tigers?
swear. Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5 was my jam.
How the hell we get here?
It's today's
What?
the
Oh,
anniversary.
today's the anniversary.
All right,
Yeah, today's his
I
anniversary.
will indulge you, Maz. When Michael died,
Oh, Farrah Fawcett, too. Oh,
Farrah
she was
Fawcett
so-
died. I remember
sure.
it like it
Clearly.
was
God
yesterday.
bless her.
I remember like it was yesterday because I was at the theater. I was going to see Transformers 2.
Oh.
I was in the movies, and this is when the ushers were still in the aisles with the flashlights, like, put your phone down. And I said, look, you kiss my ass. Michael Jackson just died. And everybody in theater was like, what?
No one watched that movie.
No one. I had to go back and see Transformers 2 again because I did not remember a thing.
Oh, man.
Sad day. Thanks, Maz. We appreciate that.
Good job, Maz. Tori Smythe says, this is hilarious. Now we got to get Neil some.
Yeah, he's another stiff.
He might be angry on that. I don't know if y'all want that.
How about Uncle Neil's soft feet
I don't know
on
if
the
y'all want
chair? What are you looking at?
My mom.
Okay.
She says she loved the show by way of
Hey, Maz.
Thanks, Mom.
Matt, first of all,
Don't
let's
be
get this done.
disappointed in me.
We want to thank Dispo and everything they do for Woodward Sports Network. They're
Hey,
a
Chris.
great partner. It's a ton of fun. The heavyweights are going to be here as well.
We should watch that show.
Yeah,
I know they're gonna have some
absolutely.
fun, too.
I
drive
would,
my
if you
car
would
home.
not mind, I would like to
That
have
might be
Maz
okay.
close the show today.
I would love that. I would
So,
absolutely love
Maz,
that.
you have the honors. You have the floor. And you have a couple of minutes. So we're not hurrying you, but from the desk, Braylon and I are signing off. You have the final word.
So you're not going to come on at all. That's it? It's just on me?
Show's
on you,
over.
brother.
Show's over. Thank you to Dispo, Hazel Park, right on the border of Ferndale
and Hazel Park,
and
yeah.
Hazel Park, right off of I-75 and 9 Mile. So come on up. Guys are great here. Look at all this great product that we have. And they took care of me with my, what do they call that? Sweet apple, sour apple.
Right here, brother.
Right here.
Maz.
You want
Maz.
Sour apple,
Maz
Maz
catch.
apple. Oh, here it is. Thank you.
That's a great throw.
Thank you.
Better
That was
catch.
good. It's called the THC Gummies. Super Sour Maz Apple.
Hey, let him rock.
All right, I took one, and I'm happy. If you want to be happy as well,
Come
where
to
has this
Dispo.
been all my life? That's what I want to know. I
Dispo.
waited too long for this. I waited too long. I want to thank all my boys here, led off by Brady, who has been through like 6 T-shirts already, because when the water comes off the tents, it's like Niagara Falls. Intern Alex, known as IA. We got Parker. Parker, I always know your last name, but I forgot it.
Brown.
I knew it. I swear. Thanks to Parker Brown, JB, for giving me that Rice Krispie treat. Luke Klotz, Jeff Iafredi,
Yo,
Chris
did you
Platty.
win a BAFTA?
Huh?
Did you win an award?
No, but you said I had a couple minutes. It's Michael Jackson Day. You know,
Emmys?
give me my just due here.
My bad.
All right, Tigers are probably going to get rained out, so tomorrow you play a doubleheader perhaps. And good luck this weekend. Sweep those Twins. And we'll see you on Monday. Heavyweights are coming up here on Woodward Sports, but it's Maz with Ermanni and Edwards.
Yes,
See ya.
sir.
Have a great weekend.
Yes, sir.
Woodward Sports, numero uno.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. You see, I'm out here on this beautiful golf course. I'm at Joyce Bell's charity outing, man, and we're out here having a good time supporting his initiatives.
Hey, Joike's part of our network, the Woodward Sports Network. Make sure you tell him that we miss him.
Yeah, no doubt. He's over here trying to get somebody instruction.
D-Mac, I hear D-Mac's out there. Darren McCarty sent me a picture a couple of minminutes ago. He's like, yep, I'm out here golfing. There he is.
PXG, and I'm like, man, let me get the hook up too. Like, what's up?
Hey, Calvin, so many of these great events happening in the area. You've got one coming up on Monday. You've got the youth camp on Tuesday. You've had the Calvin Johnson Foundation for over a decade. I think you started it in 2008. I think this is your first golf tournament, though. I mean, are you learning anything? You've got the golf. You've been in 1 million golf tournaments. What's the best thing that you can have at a charity golf event? What have you learned out of all these charity golf events that you had to make sure happened at yours on Monday?
You know, that's a tough part. You know, I've been to so many of these things, but I think the thing that I love the most at the end is like when you get on. I saw at Derek Jeter's event I went to last year in the Bahamas, and it was a competition between all the celebrities at the end. Like we played around, you have the longest drive and all that stuff, but whatever holes right in, whether it's a par 4 or par 3, you either go closest to the pin or the longest drive. And it was just something cool to get the energy up at the end of the day. And then other folks like, you know, sponsors and whatnot, they want to get in, they can get in too, you know, but just a little excitement, you know, to keep the energy up there at the end of that round.
Hey, Calvin, are you a better golfer or are you a better bowler? I'm a bowler. I want a celebrity bowling thing. I don't like this golf stuff.
We do both, man. You know, I used to be a pretty good bowler back in the day before I messed up all my fingers.
I bet.
You know, before
I do. I see him.
Up, you know what I'm saying? You know, I used to bowl pretty good. I was just a 200+ bowler.
Nice.
Hey, Calvin. I just want to point out the Sunday football camp is filled up and the Monday golf is filled up, but I do want to direct people to CalvinJohnsonJr.Foundation.com. If you do want to donate to any of the charity events happening, you guys do such great work. I wanted to put out that website, CalvinJohnsonJr.Foundation.com, because you can still donate, maybe even look ahead to next year. Calvin, I did want to, obviously, with your football camp at Allen Park, that is a really big deal, and a lot of people around here have noticed that this relationship between yourselves and the Detroit Lions, and I know you've been asked about it a million times, but who would you say has been the most influential person in trying to repair this relationship, and how has Sheila Ford Hamp been involved in this kind of reunifying the two sides here, yourself and the Lions?
Yeah, Mike Disner, I believe he's the COO there of the Lions, but he's been the one that's been instrumental, you know, in bringing the two sides together. He came in from out of town a couple of years ago, but that's been, I guess, one of his goals. He told me is to bring the two sides back together. I can't speak to Sheila and how much her involvement is. I don't know, but you know, Mike is definitely led the charge there, and I'm definitely appreciative of it.
You know, we see you at camp. You were at OTAs. You were at mini camp. It just feels right as a Lions fan, and for all of us to see you out there mixing it up with these players and interactions with Dan Campbell or Jameson Williams. Does it feel right to you to be back on the field there in Allen Park?
Feels great, man. Just to be around the speed of the game, you know, just be around the guys, obviously Dan, and the great culture. That's what's so attractive about it, is the culture, all the great player coaches that they have on that team. Probably half the staff are player coaches, and you know, guys can learn so much from that. And I expect a lot of things out of them, frankly, because of that.
Calvin, I wanted to ask you about the feel of this camp under this regime compared to when you were there with that great 2014 team, especially. That team, I thought, was railroaded. Obviously, they had a chance to make it through the playoffs and go further. What do you think of this regime and this team going forward?
Definitely excited about it. I just spoke to the player coaches. That level of experience you just don't get everywhere. But even more so than that, the way they finished the end of the season last year should definitely give them some momentum and confidence going into this year.
How about what's your take on the whole Jameson Williams suspension? The rumor out there is the kid bet on college football, but he was in a different state, in a hotel. Unfortunately, it was a Lions team hotel, and they suspended him for 6 games. What's your take on the whole gambling NFL rules?
It's tough because, you know, the NFL can gamble too, so it makes it a little tougher. You guys mind if I hit this shot right there?
No, I was gonna say, put the phone down, or maybe somebody can film you shooting. Yeah. Come on, hey, Joik, what's happening, man?
What's happening? Who I'm talking to?
What up, Joik?
It's Ryan and Maz.
What up, dog, man? What up, Ryan?
What up, dog?
Baby?
We miss you.
Man, what's up, man?
Hey, Joik, do me a favor. While you're there, give me a quick sports update, the way I taught you.
How do you treat me? Give me.
I'm only kidding, man. I'm only kidding.
Oh, this guy, man.
I'm only kidding, man.
This guy hasn't changed, Joik. Let me tell you. Hey, Hey, Joik, real quick for you, man. How great is it to be out there in Benton Harbor and have all your friends come and Calvin come
and meet D-Mac,
and D-Mac, and all the support you're getting out there?
Man, you know it's great, man, because you know Calvin comes out the past 3 years. He comes out every year. He comes support. He actually has his coming up on Monday, which I'll be there to support. He also has his football camp on Sunday, which I can't go to because my son's open house, his graduation party is on Sunday.
Awesome.
And my son will be at Wayne State next year.
Woohoo!
Yes.
Passing the torch. Yeah, passing the torch. So we're actually on the golf course right now, and I have him in a group with actually Bob Evans, the CEO of Rocket Mortgage, and then the vice president of Whirlpool husband here at my golf outing right now. So we're holding up people in back of us, so we have to go. And plus, I'm shooting a documentary as we speak right now. And so you guys want to be on the documentary when we're done with it.
Absolutely, man.
Thanks, Joik.
Joik, you rock,
Yeah,
man.
shout out to Woodward Sports, man. Love everybody over there, man.
Love you,
guys
man.
are one of the
Hey.
best in the business.
Thanks, man. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Good
Joik.
luck.
Love
Good
you
luck
guys.
today. Good luck.
Appreciate it.
All right.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Take care. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So that's Joik Bell, Calvin Johnson there at the golf tournament, the golf event in Benton Harbor. Really
Again,
cool
golf
stuff.
has nipped me again. Golf has got me again. It
Cuts
takes me
everything short.
It takes me weeks to get Calvin Johnson, and Joik Bell pulls the plug on me on a freaking golf hole. I hate golf. I despise it. It's despicable. I just can't stand it. There's nothing about it that I like. And again, it's ruining my life.
Do we have their audio still up? Do they? No, they
Oh, they're gone. You are Joik.
Oh, yeah.
He's done. He's
Joik's
filming
done,
his
man.
documentary.
I'll tell you, when you say golf to Tom Mazoué, that you might as well use another 4-letter word, because when the summer comes, you've got all this time off. You know, I just went on a golf trip. Braylon's got Friday, Monday, Friday. He's got this golf tournament, that tournament. Calvin Johnson's at a golf
This has
event.
happened to me all through my career. 27 years of trying to be an executive producer, produce shows, have my host intact, and it always gets me every single time.
Yeah.
There's not one host that I've worked with that doesn't golf. It started back in Dan Dickerson and Steve Courtney at JR and worked all the way up here to you guys.
You know, I really am not a golfer. I really don't golf.
I know, but you still go.
Hey, yeah, but okay, enough with the golf conversation. I do want to
Okay, sorry.
I do want to ask you, Maz, one question. And then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to hit it on the other side. And I'm wondering what to make of this, if anything. And we make stuff out of nothing all the time, so why not make something out of nothing here? Was it a little curious to you that Calvin said, I don't know what Sheila's involvement has been?
I took it that way.
I want maybe,
Lions fans.
Maybe we can explore that. Maybe we shouldn't. I don't know. It just it was. I thought it was kind of a layup, and then it was like, oh, maybe not. But he was out there talking.
He likes Mike Dissner.
Yeah, he does. He loves Mike Dissner. He was out there talking to Sheila, and he was out there talking to Sheila's husband. There were pictures of that, and that was an interaction that took place. I'm sure it's fine, and I'm sure we're just sitting here on a Friday trying to make something out of nothing. But I did.
Let's do it.
I did hear that, and I was like, oh man, okay.
I winked at you when he said
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
They should say something, because they do that to the wrong veteran, then they're going to get. And then it's like, well, I guess I shouldn't have said it. And then the defensive guy would be like, why are you talking shit to him? You know, and so it's a veteran. You don't do that. You should know better. So they're just trying to find their way right now. They'll figure it out.
That's so great. Dan Campbell at the podium today with Lions mandatory minicamp, talking about these rookies that are trying to trash talk out there on the field. And he's like, you do that to the wrong veteran, and they're going to get you now. Do you remember any instances of rookies coming in, Braylon, or when you were a rookie?
Yeah.
Or anything like that?
Yeah, 100%. You know me. I got a mouth. I don't.
No.
I don't. Shut up. I fear no one.
Can't imagine.
What a guy. What a guy. No, but I fear no one. I fear nothing. And I remember coming into Cleveland. You're talking about getting drafted with a team that had the number 3 pick overall. So you know my mindset. I'm coming from Michigan. You guys got the number 3 pick overall. This is Cleveland. I was talking stuff to all the guys. Gary Baxter had just got paid out of Baltimore. They brought him in. Lee Biden, which the Detroit
I remember him.
because he played for Detroit. Detroit Lions was a really good DB. Michael Lehan was a Minnesota guy. You know what I'm saying? Man, I just talk greasy to these guys. They couldn't stop me. I'm 6'3", 215.
They can't stop you.
Even if they stop me.
They can't even stop you.
So, but I do remember some young guys talking some trash to them, and it was like, nah. Don't talk trash to those guys. I remember the first time I saw David Harris in Michigan. I remember talking stuff to David Harris. Like, man, who's this punk? And I got hit up under my chin, and I was like, ooh.
I know your name now.
You got to be careful. But yeah, it's one of those things where traditionally you don't talk stuff, but who cares about tradition if you can back it up?
Right.
Like, just imagine being Sauce Gardner last year. Like, if you can back it up, then you can talk stuff. So if you can back it up, you talk it. But if you can't, you better shut up, because it will hurt your confidence. And I remember talking stuff to Sam Madison, who was a DB with that Miami Dolphins team. It was Patrick Surtain Sr. Now his son's one of the best defensive backs. Sam Madison, great secondary with the Dolphins. I talked a little stuff to them, and I didn't get off the line of scrimmage that game. So
You got your Dolphin gear on today.
hey, this is smooth, man. Peter Millar, the most consistent, most comfortable golf gear. Peter Millar and Puma.
For Dan Campbell, one of the things he was talking about today too is what gets accomplished in these mini camps, and I think, you know, camaraderie, staying on the field, getting in shape, getting in the habits of things, and now they'll go off, and the next thing they have, I believe, is training camp in July, and you know, his message to the veterans: come back in shape, come back in shape, do your jobs, and come back in shape.
Yeah, football is different than it used to be. You know, this is a comment in mass. You being the elder statesman on the show, you remember when they used to use training camp to get in shape.
Of course.
Because football is like one of the things, it wasn't paying a king's ransom.
Tony Siragusa was the king of that.
Exactly. Like, guys,
Rest in peace.
Man, guys would go with 100% rest in peace. He did the hell of a show with the Baltimore Ravens.
The Bullies.
The Bullies of Baltimore.
Yeah.
There you go. But back in the day, man, he'd be car salesman, you'd be whatever, and then you smoke a ton of cigarettes or whatever. And they would, am I lying? They used to smoke during games.
Oh, yeah.
But then they would use August to get in shape. It's not like that anymore. Guys are getting in shape. Guys are staying in shape year-round. There's all type of camps they go to. There's all type of guys that are footwork guys, etc., speed camp, speed drills. These guys are going to be in shape. Because remember last year, this is a team that was here early. This is a team that came back in shape. They may not have been where they wanted to be mentally last year during training camp, during Hard Knocks, but they were damn sure in shape.
One of the guys that we know will be in shape when he comes into camp is C.J. Gardner Johnson, and they are excuse me, CJ.
You said it right.
They're expecting big things from this young man who's coming over from Philadelphia on a 1-year, $8 million deal. Dan Campbell talked about all the different ways they could use him this year.
And so in turn, that just spills out into the offense or your teammates, and you can't help the level of intensity. Just it raises.
What's that, Maz?
We didn't get the whole clip for some reason.
Oh, okay.
The whole clip didn't play. He was just talking about how exciting this guy is. He comes in, he's a big talker, and he's a big talker. That gets him going. That gets his juices going. So it spills out to the rest of the team, is what Dan Campbell was saying.
And all of the different ways they could use him. I mean, he's a multi-positional player, and if that's probably one of the hardest parts of being a defensive back too. If you have to move around in all these different spots too. I don't know as a wide receiver.
Well, I played defensive back, and I watched the position even when I was in college, even when I was in the NFL. I remember Marlon Jackson was the first guy when I got to Michigan. Marlon Jackson, he made freshman All-American. He made third-team All-American. This is his freshman year. They moved him to safety his third year because they wanted to keep everybody, all the good DBs on the field. And sometimes it just doesn't work like that. You look at Charles Woodson. Charles Woodson was a lockdown pro cornerback for the Oakland Raiders, now the Las Vegas Raiders. And then when he moves over to Green Bay, he becomes a safety, and he becomes Defensive Player of the Year. Very rarely can guys go from slot to outside to field boundary to field corner coverage. That's what C.J. Gardner Johnson can do. That is what he's affording you on this team, and it's going to be great to see. We had Cam Sutton on the show. I'm really excited to see what C.J. Gardner Johnson, Maz's favorite free agent this year, what is he allowed to do with this team? Because I think he might have been handicapped in Philadelphia in terms of I can do much more, but you want to pigeonhole me here. I think there's a lot that he can do.
I want him to stay here. I want him. He's on a 1-year deal. That's what I don't like. He said at the beginning of the year, I've been playing on a 1-year deal the last couple of years. I'm looking for a team that really wants me, and I want to stick around. But if they don't want me, I'll pack my bags and go. But I just love this kid's attitude. I told you yesterday, Bray, when he was with the Saints, that defense was so much better.
You did.
That when they traded him to Philadelphia, the Saints kind of went down the tubes.
You did say that.
Hell, man, they went to the Super Bowl last year. I know the whole team had to get there, but he was an integral part, led the NFL in interceptions. I expect him to do that here in Detroit.
Braylon, you made my point way better than I was trying to make it. There seems to be so much talent in that defensive backfield right now. The more positions these guys can actually learn and be in a position to succeed, because you want your talented players on the field, and the Lions have so much talent now in the defensive backfield, and I can't believe I'm even saying that compared to where we were last year. But Cam Sutton, Kirby Joseph, Tracy Walker, Emmanuel Mosley, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Brian Branch, and Jerry Jacobs even.
Hell yeah.
There's 7 guys there that are extremely talented and are going to be a big boost to this Lions defense.
100%. One of the things we talked about as it led up to the draft, whether it was February, whether it was March, one of the things we talked about, Dan Campbell likes guys that do multiple things. Brad Holmes like guys that can do multiple things, play multiple positions. You can line them up here, you can line them up there, and they feel just as comfortable as they feel in their regular positions. That's what Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes are trying to build. Guys that can play multiple things and be comfortable and have no problem playing with that. And that's the team they have. They have guys that can play. I mean, just look at the guys that they're trying to draft. They got guys that can play outside rush, guys that can play interior lineman. You got guys that can play interior lineman and outside. You got guys that can play. Look at Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell can play on the line and he can play linebacker. You got defensive backs. C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He can play slot. He can line up on your outside guy. He also can play safety. He's going to be our all-pro safety. That's the type of guys that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell are going for now, and it makes sense.
Hey, yesterday, Braylon and I were discussing what Dan Campbell thinks about the secondary and how much he loves it more. Jared Goff went and said, hey, practice is harder now.
Yeah.
It's hard to get it's hard to move down the field now against his own defense. That's something you never heard about a Detroit Lion defense. It's probably 2014 when Ndamukong Suh was leading that pack.
And by the way, that's coming from a guy that is leading a top 5 offense in the NFL too. I mean, and they have the benefit of Jameson Williams, and we'll talk about him in just a couple of minutes. But it's not like they don't have him in camp right now either. I mean, this is going to be, I think, a pretty darn good defense. And I've always said that last year they had 5 or 6 impact guys that were young that were all going to get better, that when they figured it out later in the season, this team did win football games, and they went from allowing 32 points a game in the first 7 games of the season to 20 points a game in their final 10 games. And I think, when you have Aiden Hutchinson, and when you have who's the James Houston, who you guys had, John Kaminsky, Isaiah Buggs, Aleem McNeil, these guys are getting better.
Yeah, the iron sharpens iron. And it's a cliche saying, Ryan, but it's so true. It is a real true saying. When you got really good guys on offense and really good guys on defense, when you guys go against each other, whether it's OTAs, whether it's mini camp, whether it's training camp, whether it's during the season, you make guys better. I remember going against that defense when I first got to New York. You got Darrelle Revis on one side, one of the best corners in the league, still was young at the time, but one of the best. But then you had Drew Coleman, you had Marquise Williams on this side, and we're trying to figure it out. That next year, you have Darrelle Revis on this side, you have Antonio Cromartie on that side, you have Brodney Poole at safety, you have Jim Leonard at safety, who's now defensive coordinator for Wisconsin. And then on the other side, you have Santonio Holmes, you have Jericho Cotchery, and then you have myself. We were going at it. You know what we realized, Ryan, Maz? When we got to the game, it's like taking candy from a baby. Like, legitimately, most of the defenses you're going to see, they're not going to feature David Harris. They're not going to feature Darrelle Revis. They're not going to feature Antonio Cromartie. They're not going to feature that defensive line. So it was like, man, this is easy. This is how you get good. When you're playing against the Kansas City Chiefs, you know it was your best thing you got going for you. You're playing against the defense that now has arrived in the NFL.
No doubt. Really looking forward to it. And I think if the Lions do anything this year, and by anything I mean win a division championship, host a playoff game, win a playoff game, and then
win the Super Bowl,
and then go to the Super Bowl. I do think it is out there this year. If the stars align, they stay healthy, and everything goes well. I think they are that good, and they are that talented. So we talk so much about the Detroit Lions and that 8-2 finish. I really do believe the Detroit Lions are now America's team. I think everybody is rooting for the Detroit Lions. I think the NFL views the Detroit Lions they put them extremely high on the pantheon, I think, of teams that the public wants to see. Hard Knocks last year, they offered the Lions to do Hard Knocks again this year. They declined. I wish they would have done that. But before we get into what I was going to talk about, do you think that was a good move to say no to Hard Knocks this year?
I'd say keep the momentum going.
I did too.
Ryan, America's team?
I think they are America's team.
Listen, I don't think it's that far off.
Yeah.
Can I tell you why? I think Hard Knocks kind of put into focus. Everybody's wrapped up in their own team, right? And one thing that I've noticed in years doing shows here, there, and everywhere, and it just happened a couple weeks ago. So I was doing some Stanley Cup stuff for the station down in Atlanta, and I was talking to a couple of the hosts, and I said to them, do you realize the Detroit Lions have one playoff win in the Super Bowl era? And they both started laughing. They thought I was joking. And I go, I'm serious. They have one playoff win. Oh, come on. No. I go, okay, look it up. That's happened to me with a guy in Minnesota. That happened to me with a guy in Minnesota in our own division, mind you. That happened to me with a guy in San Diego, and it happened to me just recently with guys in Atlanta. I don't think people in mass, nationwide, understand the lack of success of this franchise. They really don't. So when I tell people that, it's almost like they have to go fact check me, and they come out eyes wide open going, dude, one playoff win?
Can't believe it.
I think people along the lines of what you're saying, I think there's validity to what you're saying. The combination of the characters involved, and everybody loves the Cinderella story.
Everybody
and the
does.
Lions are a Cinderella. They are.
There's no doubt about it, and I think that's why the NFL selected the Lions to play in Kansas City in Week 1 to open up the season. And I think when you look at this schedule, right off the bat for the Lions, too, I mean, to play that game in Kansas City, Dan Campbell said, what did he say? He said something along the lines of, the NFL didn't select it. We might lose, but we're not going to get our ass kicked.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think the NFL knows that, too. We're going to put up a fight. We might lose that game, but we will not get our ass kicked.
Don't shy away from it. When the moment presents itself, don't shy away from it. And I think we as Lion fans, because we've been beaten and downtrodden for so long, I think a lot of times we look at things and we go, oh, no. Well, what if they lose and this team has fallen apart in the past? This team has already shown that they aren't the, here it comes, same old Lions. They've already shown that in my mind, okay? That team last year had every reason to continue to roll down that hill and catch up some speed and finish with 3 or 4 wins. And they didn't. And they fought back, and they nearly got themselves in the playoff. So, again, I don't want to put the cart in front of the horse, but this team has a little bit of credit line behind it right now. And it's not just hope. It's not just aspirations. It's based on that which we've seen. And I think that's the most important thing that you can base future hope on.
When you talk about the start, and I want to put the schedule back on the screen, this start at Kansas City, and then you got a couple of home games against Seattle and Atlanta. And we don't have to do the whole thing, but I do think the start is important up until that game at the Ravens. So, I mean, at the Chiefs, Seattle and Atlanta at home, at Green Bay, and then you've got Carolina and at the Bucs. That's 6 games. You know, I'm going with a 5-1 record. I think it's a 5-1 start, and depending upon what happens against Kansas City, potentially 6-0.
To me, I always like to do high side and low side. I think 4-2, worst case scenario. I can't get out of my head. There are 2 games that scare me in that mix. I mean, we already talked about one, that Carolina game and the relative ease that they had. I don't want to forget what Geno Smith did to the Lions last year.
I think Seattle and Carolina are 2 get-back games.
I hope so.
That are wins.
I wish I could get out of my mind the relative ease that Seattle had going up and down the field. And again, it was early in the season. It was a different type of dynamic. Well, Seattle could say the same thing because they hadn't found their running back yet in K9, so to speak. So I want to get that taste out of my mouth. But, Ryan, is he being a slappy for saying 5-1?
I've been accused of worse.
I don't. Flannel, seriously, do you think that's crazy to look at that 6-game schedule and go 5-1? I don't think it's crazy.
I'm saying 5-1 at worst, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with Ryan when it comes to the Carolina Panthers and the Seattle Seahawks games could be get-back games. I think that the Lions will win those ones in revenge for some of the worst losses of last season. I think they'll lose to Kansas City. I think Seattle's going to be tough, but I say 4-2 is probably the floor. 5-1 wouldn't shock me, though.
5-1 wouldn't shock them. 4-2 most likely.
One thing that we always do, and we all make this mistake, yours truly included, is every year we look at schedules, and there's going to be a team that we're looking at that isn't going to be nearly as good as we think it is. And every year there's always a team that isn't going to be as deadly as it eventually turns out to be. And you know what? For a lot of teams last year, that personification was probably the Detroit Lions. Do you know how many people looked at the Lions in 2021 and said, oh, that's a W. That's a and especially after the start that they got off to. If you're looking at your schedule moving down the stretch and you're going, okay, well, we got Kansas City this week. We got the Lions. Well, that's a win. Well, the Lions jumped up and bit a lot of people last year for that. So that's one thing. Ryan, when you and I were younger, you could set the NFL to your watch. You know what I mean by that? Ho-hum, Dallas and San Francisco will be in the NFC Championship game. It's a different thing now. I mean, we see. Do I think Philly's going to be all that? I do. Do I think the Lions are going to be up there? I do. But there's probably going to be 2 or 3 teams that we didn't see coming on both sides. They're going to be damn dangerous teams. And I think that's one thing we forget when we play this off-season exercise. It's fun to play. I love to play it as much as everybody. But I think we kind of forget that what we think they are right now on June 19th is not going to be what they eventually turn out to be.
Can I give you my surprise team?
Absolutely.
In the NFL this year? The Denver Broncos. I think the Denver Broncos behind Sean Payton and Russell Wilson are going to have a bounce-back year.
He is a better quarterback than he showed.
I agree with that. I think they will be what they were this year, what they were supposed to be last year. Now, I'm not saying they're going to get to the Super Bowl, but I think they're a playoff team. They're going to win a lot more games, and they're going to be in the thick of things late in the season. Denver Broncos. That's just as far as surprise teams go. I think that's one for me.
I think that's a good choice. They were the Russell Wilson I saw last year. I've always been a fan of Russell Wilson from afar. I mean, he can do so many things. If you remember, even when he moved on over to Wisconsin, he can do so many things to hurt you, and he did that at Seattle. The guy that I saw last year wasn't Russell Wilson. That was some of the ugliest games I saw last year involved the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
I mean, really, the few times they were on primetime television, we have a mutual friend who's a big Bronco fan, and I never hesitated to tell him. I was like, dude, your team is abysmal. Like, I cannot watch this team offensively. So it'll be fun to see. But, hey, listen, is there a chance that team comes from our division? Maybe some people are looking at the Lions as being that surprise team. It won't be a surprise to us by virtue of the way that they finish, but that's the one lesson from the National Football League I've seen in the past decade.
And then my surprise team in the NFC, nobody's talking about them. It is the New Orleans Saints. I mean, when you look at Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, who knows what Michael Thomas is going to do. They've got Jamal Williams there as well. They've got an offensive offensive line. They've got some defensive players. They were really, really staunch defense last year. If they just had a quarterback, they would have definitely won that division. I think the New Orleans Saints, who were 7-10 last year, I think they could flip the script this year, go 10-7 or 11-6, and do some real damage in the NFC. I mean, could you imagine the Detroit Lions and the New Orleans Saints in Wild Card Weekend? Even though there would be the I don't anticipate the Lions having the #1 overall seed in the NFC, so I do anticipate them playing on Wild Card Weekend, and maybe they will play as a 3 seed against a 4 seed or something like that.
You know who's a cute little team last year? And I have no idea how they were a cute little team, but our mutual friend, Greg Canner, his little Commanders. How did that team
They've
go?
got no quarterback, too.
How did they go 8-1?
They're
Seriously.
They're a good team without a quarterback.
If Sam Howell can do anything, and by the way, let me say for the record, I have my doubts there. I watched a lot of Sam Howell at North Carolina, and he's one of those guys that I reached out to some of our scout friends, Scott Bischoff, and I would say, am I missing something? I know everybody talks about this guy, and he's playing for Mac, but what's supposed to jump out to me about Sam Howell? If Sam Howell can do anything, why can't the Commanders improve on an 8-1 season? How they were 8-1 last year, to me anyways, is like there was nothing there.
Right.
I mean, it's incredible. So I think that might be a team to look out for.
Want to join in Mike O'Hara to the discussion, longtime Lions beat reporter, DetroitLions.com. Mike, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, Mo.
Mike, first of all, I want to ask you about the helmets. What do you think?
Oh, I like it. I think it's really cool. I mean, to me, it looks like something you might put on before you slide into a Formula One car at Monaco or something like that. I think it's good. I like it. I'm not a big uniform guy, helmet guy, and all that. I don't really care what they wear, but I like this a lot. I really do.
It says as long as they win games, right?
That's right.
That's part of it. Well, everybody.
Go ahead, Mike.
Everybody understands that. Everybody understands that, and you can. A lot of the call-in shows this morning. A lot of people took their attack and said, "Yeah, but they got to win." Well, that's not exactly a secret.
No, it's not.
No, I wasn't saying it like that, more so on the other side. Go ahead, Ryan.
Mike, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you, obviously the helmet reveal, but just to get some thoughts from the mandatory minicamp that took place. Obviously, it feels like a little bit of a dead period in the NFL right now, but one of the guys that I was just, on DetroitLions.com and looking at standouts. One of the guys that you talked about was Kirby Joseph. He's a guy that we mention a lot here on this network. How good can this player be for the Detroit Lions, and why did he stand out to you in minicamp?
Well, the minicamp was the end of the entire off-season program, and so I think the way he played last year, with the 4 interceptions, 3 of them on Aaron Rodgers, you just had a feel that the kid knew how to play ball, and he came back, and I think he added to that. I think you saw confidence. I think you saw assuredness, and a guy who knew how to play his position this year in the minicamp. Now, granted, it's minicamp, and you're not, the wide receivers aren't getting hit, and the safeties aren't wide receivers. But for what he was, for what he had to do, what he was doing, I thought he looked like an even better pro than he was a year ago.
Mike, here's a question. So much is being made of how good the Detroit Lions are coming into this year. They drafted well. They went through free agency well. And the guys that played for them last year, they got a lot better this year. One problem they haven't had is worrying about who to cut. This year, they're going to have to worry about who they're going to have to cut. Who are some key name guys that they might have to part ways with? I mean, Romeo Okwara and guys like Craig Reynolds are the first 2 guys that come to mind when I think of that situation.
Craig Reynolds was probably the running back. I think he's fighting for the 4th or 5th spot in the backfield. You could be right about that. Romeo Okwara, I think, is safe. I think he's finally at full health from the Achilles. He injured 2 years ago in Chicago. I don't know if he missed all of that game, but in fact he missed all of the rest of that season and a lot of 2022. But he really looked strong. He looked quick. He looked like he looked like the guy who had 10 quarterback sacks 3 years ago. And so I think he's safe, but I think there's a real real battle at a lot of positions. You know, like you mentioned, the one running back, but also I think at defensive end, the outside linebacker, whatever you want to call a rusher there.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a couple of good players who might be available to another team. And if that's the case, you know, and I don't like to root it for or against anybody at cutdown time because those jobs mean an awful lot to those people competing for them. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions were able to trade one or two of those players who are destined to get cut, and maybe pick up a 7th round or a 6th round draft pick, which you can use as leverage in the future.
Mike, one last question out of me, man. At least right now, Jahmyr Gibbs, first-year rookie for the Detroit Lions, as well as David Montgomery, first-year Detroit Lions guy. How are they sharing the reps between those two guys throughout the season and ending in this past training camp? This past minicamp.
Well, it could be the hot hand at a given time, Braylon. It really could. But I would think that Montgomery would get the slightly more, maybe 60-40, split there, and he'd get more of it. Look, if you're going to want to run the ball, you're going to, the Detroit Lions want to do that. They've got the offensive line to do it behind, and if you're going to do that, then you've got to run the ball. You can't do it with gimmicks, and I don't think that's what they intend to do. I think what will change the thinking here is that Jahmyr Gibson can really play wide receiver, and I don't mean just catching passes out of the backfield, and I'm not denigrating that or not giving them the value that they have, but he can split out wide, go in motion, come back, and really create some havoc down the field. So I think you could really have both of those guys on the field at the same time, and at the end of a game, one guy might play 60% of the plays, another guy might play 55. That adds up to more than 100, but it's because they're on the field at the same time.
Mo, I got a couple of defensive.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
It does. It makes a lot of sense, man.
Hey, on the defensive side, on the depth side, take a look at how the linebackers position looks so far to you through these two mini camps, the mini camp and the rookie camp so far. Is it much of a difference than last year? Jack Campbell being in there, Malcolm Rodriguez his second year, and Derek Barnes as well.
Well, I think the guy who took the biggest step forward of that group would be Derek Barnes, really. He started to come on late last season. His first 3 or 4 years, whatever it was, at Purdue, he was an outside pass rusher and moved inside his last year at Purdue. And really, I think, it doesn't sound like a big difference, Biz. It really is. And I think that it took him a little bit to really develop into what they want him to be. And I would not be surprised if he's the third linebacker there, and Rodriguez is number 4. It wouldn't surprise me the other way either. But just some of the power that he brings there, I think he helps Garrett win that job a little bit. Win that job as the number 3 guy.
And Mo, how about the biggest change on this team? The defensive backfield, obviously, led by Cam Sutton. Emmanuel Mosley comes over. C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Brian Branch comes over as a rookie. What's your take on those guys going forward?
I think that's it's really changed that unit. I mean, it really is. I don't know if you call it a whole new unit, but this is probably as close as you're ever going to get. Yep. And look, I think they've got a couple of guys there coming back too, like we already mentioned, Kirby Joe and Jerry Jacobs. The kid from Arkansas, he'll be in his 3rd year. He's really a ball player. I just don't know if he can beat out any of the more veterans that are there that he'll be competing against. I think it's gone from an ordinary unit to a much better unit, and I think it sort of shows you what the Detroit Lions front office has done in the 3 years they've been there. They've spot by spot, position by position, they've filled in the cracks of that team to make it. It's certainly not done. The job is probably never done in the National Football League. But if you just look at this, what they intend to take on the playing field this year compared to what they inherited 3 or 2 years ago, there's no comparison whatsoever.
Mike, I want to follow up to that, talk about the defensive backfield. Probably, more new impact players in that unit than any other unit on the team. How quickly does that thing come together? I mean, we know the talent is there. We know they have talent, but I guess chemistry, how important is that in the defensive backfield, and how quickly can they get that?
Well, I think that's, I don't know if it's everything, but it's about as close as you can get in terms of chemistry, and you got to be able to, you know, you got to be able to trust what the guy next to you or the other cornerback is well, if he's seeing the same thing you are. If he's not, Braylon could speak to this. If you're playing against a secondary, they're not sure of Braylon, you're going to set records week after week.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. I think the big thing, too, is when you start to go against the second group, and the second group becomes just as good as the first group, and you're starting – it's tough when you go with the ones. It's tough when you go with the twos. That's when you know that the team is starting to work together. Let me piggyback off Ryan's question, Mike, and let me ask you this. Now that you have Cam Sutton, now that you have Mosley, who's still nursing his ACL, but you have an improved DB room, you have an improved offensive room, well, for the wide receivers. How was that competition in this offseason? How was that competition during minicamp? How was that competition looking at Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, going up against Kirby Joseph, going up against Cam Sutton, C.J. Gardner-Johnson?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I got some notes here to myself, and that was going to be my next one. You know, talking to a couple of assistant coaches and a couple of players, what they said was, I think it was that Jared Goff mentioned it too when he was asked about it. And he said, he just said it's stickier out there this year. In other words, there aren't the openings that they don't have the openings in the secondary that they had in the last couple of years. And that to me, one of the other assistant coaches, it's been a lot tougher out there. It's been he said it's been a really fun spring. And what he means is the competition between the offense and the defense that's created by the improvement in the secondary. And so that really says something. You look at, just bring this up again, you look at the names and numbers that were there 3 years ago, 2 years ago, last year. It's a completely different unit, except for maybe one or two players like Will Harris and a couple others.
Yeah. The thing I love about this, Mike, and this is just a statement, this isn't even a question, is more so players are going to get better. Everybody's going to get better around because Jared Goff, his windows aren't as easy he's throwing to in practice. He's having to throw into some very tight windows now, which means he's only going to get better as well during this upcoming season. Maz?
Mo, have you seen a team?
That's a great observation. That's a great observation by you, and that's why you once caught 17 passes in one season.
I appreciate
and no, he didn't pay me to bring that up.
That's my guy right there, man.
You got a great memory, Mo. You got a great memory. Mike O'Hara joins us, of course, DetroitLions.com. Look, hey, I wanted to ask you. You've been around for a while, okay? You've been through a lot of these regimes.
What are you trying to say over there?
I'm just saying that he's been around since Mr. Ford broke that logo out a few years ago. Anyway, what I want to ask you, Mo, is have you seen a Lions team this put together this soon?
This soon? I don't know about exactly this soon because we're assuming in the next year they're going to be put together. And there are no guarantees, but to go from, what was it, 3-13-1
right
to 9-8 to what we project for them next year.
17-0.
And I think they're going to be a 10-11.
Right, 17-0.
Well, I think they're a 10 or 11 win team for sure, and maybe a tick higher if they get it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I always compare a lot of this to the 1990s team from 1991 from 1991 to 2000. They had it was 7 winning seasons. They made the playoffs 5 times. They won 2 division titles and had double-digit wins 3 times. I think it was, maybe 4. So until they do that, they haven't done it. But I think and also most of that was before free agency too.
Right.
So you could build a team and hold on to it for a long time. You just got more creative in your negotiations with players now than you did back in those days. But those were really, really good teams. They seem to seem to have been forgotten by some of the not so good seasons since then. But this team right here, I think it's as many good young players I've seen on a Lions team in all the years I've been covering them.
Excellent.
And Mike, because of that too, and I say this a lot, there is no perfect roster in the NFL, but to me, this looks like it doesn't have a clear weakness anywhere. You can't pick backup quarterback. Anybody's starting quarterback goes out, you're done. What is the weakness of this team?
Well, I don't think they have depth at wide receiver. And
exactly.
I don't want to call them weak at receiver, but the receivers they have are good. They need one more. I think they do, or 1.5 more. However, I think what's going to pick up some of the slack for that is this rookie tight end, 2nd-round draft pick, Sam
Laporta.
I always listen. I can never get his name right. I've been watching The Godfather reruns too often.
Think of
why you got
porta.
us.
Think of porta potty.
Portabella. Portabella.
Sam Laporta.
Portabella's better.
Portabella. There you go. Sam
Laporta.
Sam Laportabella.
Let's do it, but he runs routes. He makes catches like a wide receiver now.
Nice.
He's 6'3", 248. That's not a wide receiver build, but he's so smooth, almost effortless out there. Just kind of slides through, one crack to another. But that, like I said, that's not a wide receiver, but it's a guy who can catch passes, gain yards, and run after the catch.
But I was gonna say last question, Mike. Unless Braylon, I'm sorry if you had anything. Sorry to step on you there, but do you think Brad Holmes' job is never done? But do you think there's some cap casualty out there somewhere? They do have space still. That they bring in a big name guy. It doesn't feel like a Brad Holmes thing to do, but do you think that possibility is out there if they think they're 1 or 2 players away?
I would think that if they had a chance to get a player maybe on a 1 year prove it contract, they would do it. I would not be surprised if they bring in another player who becomes the backup quarterback. That wouldn't surprise me, and it could be somebody like Teddy Bridgewater, who probably, and I don't know this and I haven't talked to him, but who probably, and he's doing the right thing, is probably waiting for the start of the training camp to see if anybody gets cut, because there's certain dates here where if you cut a player, you get a break on the salary cap and all that, and also some team might want to have been hanging on to a veteran backup, and decide to let him go for whatever, a 7th round draft pick or something like that. And then you make your move for another quarterback, and Nate Sudfeld, is replaced. Although he looked awfully for who he is and what he's done or hasn't done, I should say. He looked really good in this spring camp. He really did.
Good to hear.
Great stuff, Mike O'Hara. Check him out, DetroitLions.com. Lots of great stuff on there, and it is a pretty slow period now in the NFL and beyond, but there's some really great stuff on that site, and one of the reasons why we wanted to bring Mike on today. Thanks so much, Mike. We appreciate it, buddy.
Mike,
See
appreciate
you,
it,
Mo.
sir.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
See you,
Mike
bud.
O'Hara, one of the best out there, and a true gem in the Detroit area, too. We're really lucky to have Mike covering the Detroit Lions. And, for guys like Mike O'Hara, for guys like Dan Miller and
Dan Dickerson?
Well, I'm just saying you want guys that have been covering the Lions to experience a little bit of winning, too. They have covered 0-16. They have been through every regime.
We gotta get your boy on now, man.
I mean, it is just my goodness, man. To cover a winning football team, that would be something.